Verse 7 presents God's direct address. Hear, O my people, and I will speak. O Israel, and I will testify against thee. I am God, even thy God. Psalm 50, verse 7. The command here demands attention. God calls his people to listen. The verb means to obey, and not just to hear with the ears. When God speaks, his people should respond. The phrase, O my people, emphasizes the covenant relationship with the nation of Israel. Despite Israel's failures, God still claims them as his own. The possessive pronoun my shows God's continued commitment. He addresses them not as strangers, but as those bound to him by covenant. The parallel phrase, O Israel, reinforces this identification. God speaks to the nation he chose and delivered from Egypt. I will speak announces God's intention. The verb expresses formal testimony. God will present his case. I will testify against thee reveals the nature of God's speech. The word testify carries legal weight. God stands as both witness and judge. He testifies against his people, presenting evidence of their covenant violations. The declaration, I am God, even thy God, establishes divine authority. God is not just any deity, but Israel's God. The Lord's relationship gives him the right to judge the nation. God bound himself to Israel at Sinai, and they bound themselves to him. Now he holds them to that agreement. Verse 8 clarifies what God does not condemn. I will not reprove thee for thy sacrifices or thy burnt offerings, to have been continually before me. Psalm 50, verse 8. The phrase, I will not reprove thee for thy sacrifices, surprises the reader. God does not criticize their ritual observance. They maintained the external forms of worship. The phrase, thy burnt offerings, to have been continually before me, acknowledges their consistency. People offered burnt offerings as the law required. The altar fire burned, and these offerings ascended to God. From outward appearances, Israel's worship seemed acceptable. Verse 9 reveals God's actual complaint. I will take no bullock out of thy house, nor he goats out of thy folds. Psalm 50, verse 9. God declares he needs nothing from them. The phrase, I will take no bullock out of thy house, shows God's self-sufficiency. He does not depend on their offerings. Their cattle belong to him already. He requires nothing from Israel's flocks. The sacrificial system did not exist to meet God's needs. Israel misunderstood the purpose of their offerings. Verse 10 explains why God needs nothing. For every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle upon 1,000 hills. Psalm 50, verse 10. The phrase, every beast of the forest is mine, asserts God's ownership. Even wild animals belong to him. He created them and sustains them. The cattle upon 1,000 hills extends this claim to domestic animals. God owns all cattle everywhere. No animal exists outside his ownership. Israel's offerings add nothing to God's wealth. Verse 11 continues the catalogue of God's possessions. I know all the fowls of the mountains, and the wild beasts of the field are mine. Psalm 50, verse 11. The phrase, I know all the fowls of the mountains, demonstrates God's intimate knowledge. He even knows every bird. The verb know implies more than awareness. God cares for and watches over each creature. Matthew 10 verse 29 states, Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father? God owns all creatures. All creation belongs to its Creator. Israel's sacrifices cannot enrich God or place him in their debt.